Hi, hello, welcome back to the vlogs. I am obviously doing a little bit of a different type of video this evening. I wanted to kind of sit down, have a little girls chat and just talk about all the wedding planning stuff that's been going on. We have made some changes to our wedding plans, our wedding venue, and just kind of talk through some of the joys and then some of the lows of wedding planning, and just kind of talk over a lot of things. I know that I've been talking a lot about planning a wedding in New Orleans, and since I have started this channel, some things have changed. So I kind of wanted to talk through all of that and bring you all along for the journey of how we have gotten to the decision that we got to, and if anyone's going through similar types of situations as what we have. So I'll kind of start just from the beginning of our story. So my fiance Mike and I, we have been dating now for over 3.5 years. We started dating in May of 2021, and we met after he was stationed here in Albuquerque for the Air Force. And so we started dating. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico, lived here my whole life. So, you know, the rest is history. We've been dating ever since, and obviously just got engaged in March of this year. So we've been engaged now for about 6.5, 7 months, and we have known for a little while now that we wanted to get married. So it was a really exciting time to be planning a wedding and to be, you know, choosing a venue and all of that. Every little girl plans all these things or thinks about planning all these things all her life. When we got engaged, we had kind of decided, his whole family lives in Ohio, my whole family lives here in New Mexico. So we thought it would be fun, instead of making just one side of the family travel, to have both sides of the family travel and pick somewhere that's kind of in between Cleveland and New Mexico. And so we chose New Orleans as our city. We were kind of torn between Nashville and New Orleans because they're both pretty much equally in the middle of the two states. And so once I started looking at venues, I actually think I would have picked Nashville over New Orleans, but New Orleans was just better in terms of the price point. And so we decided on New Orleans for the wedding, and we went out in June to pick our wedding venues. And so we did end up picking a venue then. We picked the Botanical Gardens in City Park of New Orleans, and it's a very beautiful venue. You basically rent out the whole Botanical Gardens, and it was actually a very good price point as well, considering we were looking at about anywhere from 50 to 60 people head count. Realistically, we knew we were going to invite probably 70 to 80 and hoping for about 50 to 60 to show up. So we were looking at venues that could have that kind of a capacity. So not a super large wedding, but mediums to small sized, and continued to pick our venue. And so luckily it's one of those all-inclusive type of venues. So they do all of the food for you. They offer an open bar. You know, it was a really great option because obviously I wasn't going to be in the city that we were planning it in. So I wanted to find something that was a little more all-inclusive. And so we moved forward, starting to go into the next months of July, August, September. I picked out vendors. I had picked a combo like DJ, photo, video vendor, and florals. And so, you know, things are moving along, and then we send out our invitations, and recently we've been getting RSVPs back, and we started kind of realizing like, maybe not as many people as we thought were actually going to be able to make it. And that makes sense. I mean, it's a really hard financial time for a lot of people right now. So we've been kind of looking at that for the last month or so, trying to gauge, you know, how many people are going to come. And the venue alone it really wasn't too expensive, but once you start to add in all the vendors, so the DJ, the photographer, a videographer, the florals, the adding in a rehearsal dinner. We wanted to make sure it was inviting for people to want to come, so including like maybe a morning after brunch. So once we started tacking on all these extra items, we realized like, oh my gosh, this is turning into a very large expense, which we were happy to pay, but we wanted to make sure that enough people were going to be able to come, especially also because our venue has a 50-person minimum. And so that's kind of one whole side of the story. So I'm going to stop there and kind of go to the other side of the story, which is kind of our faith journey. And so when Mike and I met, neither of us were very strongly going to church, not super involved in our faith. He's always been a little more involved than I was. When we first started dating, we weren't going to church, and we weren't, just talking about faith in general. And about a year and a half ago, we really decided, we want to find a home church. We want to get more involved. At this point, we had already moved in together. And so we found the great church that we are going to now. And in the last, I would say, probably 6 months or so, we've really started to kind of do a deeper dive into our faith. And specifically for me, like coming back to the church and coming back to my faith, I was raised in the church, and so I was familiar with it, but I was kind of always that kid that understood the stories that were being told to me, but didn't ever actually have a true faith in Jesus as my Lord and Savior. And so now being able to understand it as an adult and actually have true faith, it has changed a lot of the way that I view my life and the way that I want to be living my life to glorify God. And so with all of that, we've also been exploring the idea of, well, should we do a civil ceremony? Because we are living together and everything that comes with that. And, that's a big weight when you're trying to draw closer to God and realizing that you're kind of living in this sinful nature. And so we've been talking about that a lot lately too. And so these two things kind of coinciding of, oh my gosh, are we going to have enough guests? We have a 50-person minimum. Like, do we really want to spend this much money on a wedding? Plus the whole piece of, should we do a civil ceremony and then do a real wedding? Like, what do we want to do? And so it's been something that's been weighing heavily on me, because I understand that a lot of people, when they come to your wedding, they expect it to be, the real thing, that this is the real ceremony, and you haven't been married for 5 months. And so that was something that was really hard on me, was like, okay, what do we do? How do we make this decision? We finally just sat down and had a really hard conversation about, what does our wedding look like, and what do we want to do, and how do we want to glorify God? And so we made the decision to cancel our New Orleans wedding. We've had to have some hard conversations with our family members. Luckily, it wasn't until April, and so we've given them enough notice where, maybe only a couple of our guests had already gotten their hotel rooms, which they're able to get a refund on, and all of that. The other thing that we're going to do is, after we elope, we're still going to do a reception, but we're just going to do it in Cleveland. And so I have a much smaller family than he does, so we decided that the majority of my family members will probably be able to go out to Cleveland, and then his family will all be out there, and we'll be able to do a reception. So that was the main thing that I still wanted, as the bride. I felt it was important to still be able to get our families together and still be able to celebrate our marriage and our love, but just do more of a reception, so that way people understand that we're already married. So we're going to be doing that hopefully around the same time that we had planned the original wedding date, so that way people who already planned to travel that weekend, they could just change the location that they're traveling to. But so far it has been well received, and both of our families are of Christian background, and so they understand a lot of our reasoning with it, as well as just financial reasons, right? Not only is it saving all of our guests some money to not travel to New Orleans, but it's saving us a lot of money as well to choose to elope. So we have decided that we're going to be eloping in Mexico, which is really exciting, and kind of doing a symbolic ceremony there. So we're still going to do a civil ceremony here in the United States. It's just a little bit easier that way. You don't need as much documentation. And then we're going to do a true elopement in Mexico with more of a symbolic ceremony, actually exchange rings and all of that. So that's kind of the plan. But it's definitely been a very hard decision to make, and it's been stressful, you know, because there's a lot of people involved. It's not just us, and so having to make sure that we're communicating with everyone has been a very, very big decision, but I think we're very happy with it, you know, at the end of the day. But I will say that wedding planning is definitely not for the faint of heart. You know, there is so much that goes into it. This is the least stress that I have been in this process so far. I think there was a lot weighing on me. But yeah, so, you know, trying to figure out how many people would be able to actually make it, how much we wanted to actually spend, knowing we had a minimum, you know, how much extra work we were going to put into like a rehearsal dinner, a brunch, things like that, depending on how many people come. And so, you know, I wanted to kind of talk about, you know, the struggles of wedding planning too, right? Because anyone who has planned a wedding knows that not necessarily the actual planning piece is the bride, right? It's kind of everyone else involved. So I know for me that one of the hardest things was just trying to get in touch with vendors. It's going to be the hardest part for you, is just getting responses in general. I think that the wedding market is so saturated and it's so popular that they probably just get so many requests that they truly can't keep up with it. And so if there was a vendor that I was really interested in, then I would just have to hound them, and I would have to email them constantly to get a response. And it's even been that way with my wedding planner. I know that the wedding planners are so busy, and so I pretty much would have to schedule a call out ahead of time with her if I needed any questions answered. And I know several people who have gotten married recently and had very similar experiences where they just couldn't get a hold of their wedding planner. And so I think that was one of the big struggles. Just all the extra things, like, you know, I think there's a lot of added pressure from the world that we live in, from social media, from Pinterest, to live up to this hype of, you know, what a wedding should look like and all of the extra things that come with that. Because beyond the florals, beyond the photographer, beyond the already beautiful venue that you're getting, you also have to think about, oh my gosh, do I want welcome signs? Do I want a guest book for people to sign? I need a sign for the guest book. I need a bar sign. Do we want to do signature cocktails at the bar? You know, all these little things that I would just keep myself up at night constantly thinking about. And yes, there's a part of it that's exciting and kind of fun, but there's also a part of it that's so exhausting. And so I just think that, like I said, this is the least stress that I've been, because I know that I'm not going to be handling any of that. There's still going to be parts of it at the reception, I'm sure, but on a much smaller scale. And I'm taking a lot of that pressure off of myself at this point, because at the end of the day, we'll already be married and people will just want to be there to celebrate us and our love and be able to spend time with family and friends. So there's just been things along the way that have caused stress and I've learned from. And so really this is just a video that I wanted to share my story, and to share that not every wedding has to look the same. Not every wedding, you know, has to fit that like fairy tale of what every girl dreams of. And at the end of the day, you know, we've decided that we're doing what's best for both ourselves and for our relationship with God. And at the end of the day, we know that He's going to reward us for that decision, whatever that looks like. We're very happy with our decision, but it's definitely a lot of big changes. I'll be happy and excited to take you all along for our planning for the elopement and then our planning for the reception as well. His mom actually works as a sales manager for a hotel in Cleveland, and so we're hoping to be able to work with that hotel hopefully, and maybe just rent out a ballroom to do the reception in. So more to come there, but I just wanted to kind of give y'all an update. I know that's a lot of change, and so we're very excited, but definitely maybe not the wedding that I thought was going to happen, but definitely the wedding that I'm excited about, and it was going to glorify God and save us money financially, as well as our whole family too. So hopefully this was somewhat of a cohesive video to listen to. I'm sure I should have written points out or something, but I just wanted to get all the information out there and share with you all what's going on. But I appreciate y'all for watching if you've made it this far, and I will see you all in the next video.